Jon Hudson. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Dave. I'm doing well. How about you, man?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. You know, it's been a high quality woo night here on the show, and I look forward to that carrying over here with you here, my friend.
Yeah, she was fun, man. She was, she's one of those people where, yeah, she takes you forward on a ledge, but she's so consistent in her telling that you almost like a lot of people. I'll break up what they're saying, and I'll say, okay, this seems believable to me, this doesn't. But the way she presents, it's like you almost have to take it all for what it is, or throw it all out, because she's incredibly consistent and throughout the whole thing. It was quite impressive.
Well, you know what? I thought she was fantastic. I really did. And, you know, she is a very talented woman. You know what I liked about her, John? She didn't force the answers. A lot of paranormal people come on if they're that connected and they're so matter of fact about what is going on that you kind of sit back and you're like, okay, is that true? Is that not true? You know, is that just their opinion or whatever? But with Amber, she just kind of took it all in stride and really just was like, look, I don't know what's happening in the rest of the world. I can only explain what's happening to me, and I thought that was very refreshing.
It's a really good lesson for everyone to take, because the truth of the matter is that even if you know what you believe is true, and even if what you believe is true to the other person, if you state it in such a fashion, there's a good chance that it'll throw them off. So if you really want yourself to be believed, you should try to take your ego out of that one. And it's hard to work on, but it's something everyone should do.
No, I fully agree with you, my friend. I fully agree with you. And you know what? We brought you in here to talk some UFOs, and might as well get it started while you're here. And let's get right into it. There was a UFO spotted in Denver.
This is a super cool story, and the reason it's cool for a couple reasons. So first off, the story starts with this individual, and I couldn't find a good article on it. All I unfortunately found was a YouTube article on it. But what's so cool about this story is that essentially the gentleman who took it, whose name I'm afraid I don't have right now because it was all in the video, I wasn't able to transcribe it. But basically what he did was he basically set up a high-speed camera, and this was not something that he saw with his naked eye. This is something he could only see with his high-speed camera. And you can see the object. I mean, it's very obvious on the screen. Well, what's cool about this story isn't that, because that's been done several times. Is his video of higher quality than others? Yeah, I would say it's a little higher quality, not significantly so. But what's cool is he went to the local news, explained to them how he got the video. They went out and captured their own of the same object.
No.
That's the cool part, right? And so even if it turns out this object, I mean, God, look, honestly, even if it turns out this is some joint fantasy between the two of them and they're projecting this, what I love about this story is the fact that a citizen saw something, went to someone who isn't necessarily an authority, but has hopefully more resources than they do, a news group. That news group took them seriously, went out and did what they suggested and did the investigation, actually got positive results, and then took those positive results and brought them back and presented them on TV. That's fantastic. Now, do we have the answer yet? No. At this point, it would have to be stepped up to another level. But I love the fact that it played out this way, because this needs to be repeated over and over and over and over and over again. This is how to do it. This is the way. This is the good way to do it.
What kind of craft were people seeing?
It's basically it's an object that I've seen before. It's basically a very nondescript kind of cylindrical, oval-shaped sort of object. I wouldn't describe it as any kind of a pill type form to me, but you're only seeing it from one angle. To me, it looked kind of like the craft from Flight of the Navigator.
Oh yeah, I love how that one morphs. I
Yeah, I
really
mean, you don't see it so close; it's far off, and you just see it kind of moving around in the distance. And so you don't get a whole lot of detail. But the fact that this thing was showing up consistently enough that he was able to tell this news group, go out to this place during this window of time, point your camera in this direction, and make sure you have your frame rate at this level, and boom, they caught it.
was that the one where they were standing in like a dirt field?
I believe so. It's actually it's in Denver. It's actually I'm trying to remember, and once again I do apologize. I meant to transcribe the thing, and Thomas Fessler did a great thing on it on the 11th that I would recommend everyone go check out. But yeah, but I mean this is all brand new. There's nothing to report yet as far as results, but I just love the fact that it played out. How, I mean, this is honestly, I wouldn't have even recommended this to someone because honestly, I would have had a hard time believing it was even possible. But the fact that this all played out this way, I mean, I think this news agency deserves some kind of a huge reward, just for the way they played it.
Well, you know what? So many times we hear, John, that the news media is very fickle when it comes to this type of story. They don't have a lot of resources. Most stations don't, believe it or not. And they don't have a lot of time to play around. And yet this camera person and this reporter, I believe they spent like somewhere between 6 to 12 hours out there just having their camera pointed at the sky, at the frame speed that the guy said. And when they pulled it off, I mean, this thing was doing zigzags. It was doing
it's crazy to watch.
90-degree turns. It was crazy in regards to this. But I mean, UFO aside, we have given the mainstream media a very, very hard time, and we have been extremely critical, and I think deservingly so, as a former member of the mainstream media, where they haven't taken this story seriously. So the fact that they would do this and take the time to do this is what impresses me.
And I agree with you. However, the one caveat I would throw out there is that in this case, he gave to them the one thing that everybody has been asking for 50 freaking years. And that is a prediction of it happening in the future that you could then go to and do further analysis of. And that is what's always missing in every other situation. And in this one situation, so for all those scientists who have been saying forever, we need repeatability, we can put in a science experiment, this is it. For all those people that were complaining, hey, we can't get repeatability because we can't get into science, this is it. This is what we're talking about. And now, will it always play out this way? No, because most of the time it's not repeatable. But the fact that it was this time, yes, this is so awesome.
I want to ask you, how do we know it's a UFO and not just a blurry bug?
Well, so obviously in the very beginning, you're trying to fail out things of perspective, right? So things where objects appear bigger or smaller than they actually are because of their distance to the lens. And so those are always things that you're going to go through. And my understanding is that analysis was done right off the bat, because there was at one point some concern that it could have been something on the lens. But the fact that the news group then got the film too, with different cameras and different people, I mean, it's like, I mean, it's and the thing is that, this thing's what's so funny is this thing's so blatantly obvious, and then it's not blatantly obvious because essentially this cannot be seen by the naked eye. They show the film where you see it and you're watching the film and there's nothing. And then he slows it down and pop, it shows up. It's crazy.
Did they ask the guy how he was able to predict it?
He caught it by accident.
Well, I know that, but when he caught it by accident, but obviously when he said,
I don't remember what originally drew him out there, But and I believe that's what you're asking. But I believe he was going there with a regular cadence, and then noticed it, and then went back and saw it additional times, or it was after several events and went back through multiple videos and saw that it always appeared, because I believe it was always between like noon and 3, or between 1 and 3, or 1 and 2. It was kind of like a cable repair guy. He had a window of opportunity.
Yeah, but how did he know when and where to tell the reporters? That's what interests
like I said, yeah, I honestly think it was just that he observed it. That he observed this pattern himself, right? That basically he was filming for large portions of the day, and basically realized that every time he saw it, it was always between this time and this time. And it was always when facing this direction. And so I think he just took that to them and offered it to them as a way of repeatability. And honestly, I'll be really, like, he's just damn lucky. He's just really damn lucky it actually showed up.
That just amazes me. That just amazes me. Now, do we know if outside of this report, if they have gone back there, either the news crew or this gentleman, to see if it's happened again?
My understanding is this is all very current. Like, this has all been happening like within the last like 2 weeks. So I don't know if there has been any follow up. I know that there was some attempt to reach out to Denver Airport and I believe FAA and ask about, like, objects that it could have been, and nothing. My understanding is that they don't have any sort of official statement yet from the military, because the thing is that if the military had a vehicle that they knew was going so fast that humans couldn't see it, then they would feel very free to kind of blow it around, as long as it was safe, right? They would feel very free to move it around in populated areas to a degree, because they wouldn't have to worry about it being seen. And maybe they got caught with their pants down. I mean, honestly, for me, very personally, if this turns out to be a military drone, I'm still going to be just as bloody excited, because what we had a process that worked.
Well, that's very interesting. And I hope that they don't abandon this, whether it's the media or whether it's this gentleman who caught it at first, because if that is maybe a portal type area where these craft can get in and out, it's something that needs to be investigated further. It needs to be put on the radar. Now, I do believe that this reporter and this television station actually did reach out to NORAD for confirmation on whether or not there was anything in the air, and that came back negative.
Yeah. But I believe it was really funny, because at that point in the report, and they said they reached out to NORAD and asked if they saw anything like this. And I totally wanted to, like, I realized I wasn't listening to it live, something I could do, but I wanted someone to chime in and go, "Did you ask about fast walkers?" Because remember, I mean, we had that whole problem with NORAD about, like, them just naming it something else and claiming that they'd never seen anything, and then you give it the right name, and it turned out they had like 11,000 instances of it or something crazy like that, right? So I don't know exactly, but yes, I mean, I agree that the response that they got from NORAD I sounded very legitimate, and it sounded very upfront, and to me that almost makes this all significantly more interesting, because if this object is able to operate in that space and isn't being caught or picked up by anyone else except for this one guy that got lucky with a camera, I'm going to guess people want to know about that.
John, apparently there's an old image archive that you're taking a look at here.
Yes, yeah, this is awesome, and this is another example of what I'm hoping to see more of in the future. Although we have already seen something like this with what Grant Cameron's been doing and so forth, but this is basically this is all about a researcher named Rick Hilberg, someone that I'm not personally familiar with. I assume you've heard of him, Dave. He's a veteran UFO researcher in the U.S. That has been in this for quite some time, and he had previously given permission to publish his UFO photos, which can also be reached through this archive that I'll provide a link to. But with this archive, this new one is actually photos specifically Hynek, Gray Barker, John Keel, Betty Hill. This is an archive about the people, and they're all available. And these are some just, I mean, okay, if you are into the history of anything, if you like the inside baseball aspect of anything, then this is some of the fun stuff. You know, I mean, they have things like Alan Manick and Donald Kehoe in 1964 in the front yard of Earl Nerf. They have you know, a lot of them are at specific events, like a picture of Betty Hill at the 1980 National UFO Conference in New York. You know, pictures of you know, just and some of them are pictures of people that you know, not in this archive, but as being called out. But you can see people. You know, a lot of these people are still around, but it's to me, it's once again, I think that people that preserve history like this, and then people who are willing to take the time to curate it and share it, need to be applauded, because I think it's awesome. And I think just for anyone who's been doing this kind of research, these are just incredible, valuable archives to run into. Because like right now, like, you know, like one of the problems that, you know, like, I mean, okay, yeah. So like, if you want to investigate something like, you know, let's say Phoenix Lights, right? Like, you know, if you can go into Coast to Coast archives, right, and you can pull up the very early Art Bell episodes. I believe I don't think you can get the one the night of it, but you can get the ones, like, you get some of the very early ones where it wasn't very many months afterwards, and like the one I'm listening to right now, you know, it's you know, oh, I can't remember the gentleman's name now, but I mean, it's like a really, really famous, oh man, who was it again? I don't remember right now, but I mean, basically, you know, you can go into the archive and listen to all these fantastic old interviews that Art did. But going through those archives is tremendously time consuming and hard to research, and very valuable, but difficult to do. And so when people do things like this, now you actually have, you know, midsections and midpoints and insertion points and so forth. We can go in and go, oh, I'm only interested in this a little bit. So that's why these things are so useful. And certainly as you're getting to a point where you're trying to present any of your material, being able to take some of these images and tie them into any kind of, you know, idea that you're trying to present or so forth can be hugely impactful.
No kidding, no kidding. And we need more of that. We need more of that archival type stuff. I mean, there's a number doing it, you know, but I mean, not everybody is doing what Grant Cameron is doing, which has a plan for their research, much like Stanton Friedman sent all of his information over to the University of New Brunswick.
Yes. Well, and the thing is it, you know, there's no normal yet for what this looks like, right? Like, what does it look like? What's available to the archive, right? And because the thing is that there's people who are good at collecting data, and there's people that are good at presenting data, and those are honestly not very frequently the same people. And so, you know, or there's just different perspectives. I mean, take someone like Cheryl Costa, right? Like, the way that she presents her data makes sense to her, and it's very valuable to a lot of people, right? And I get that. But for me personally, there are very drastically different methods of information sharing that I would give significant effort to get out of her. But the thing is, that's not what she likes. That's not how she works. So there's no reason for her to do that, right? So that becomes very challenging.
Very challenging. All right. Final topic for tonight is there's an article on government coming from the Liberation Times about a Pentagon spokesperson attempting to avoid congressional UFO legislation.
Yeah, so I'm not going to do this article justice, and because it's fairly lengthy, and I really recommend everyone go through it, and a nod to Christopher Sharp once again for a nice effort. But what I do want to touch on is that he kind of goes through and he touches on some of the you know, basically what he's trying to document is that ever since the Armed Services Act and everything got signed, there was immediately efforts that appear to have been going on within these different organizations to try to limit, mitigate, avoid, basically anything that they can do to essentially free themselves from any requirements that this new legislation is going to put them into. And that in itself isn't okay. That in itself isn't evil. To be honest with you, that's probably what most groups do all the time in government, because you're always worried about getting things dumped on you and not having the resources to take care of it. But in this case, what you have is you have some very kind of specific things that seem to pull off. So, for example, before the ink had even dried, on December 29th, Roger Gassel corresponded with the Department of Defense spokesperson Susan Go regarding, is it Go or Go? How do you pronounce it, Dave? Do you know?
Some people call it Go, some people Goff. I don't know.
Okay. To me, it's Go, but because to me it's like Van Gogh. But if I hear differently, I'll change it. And I apologize, Susan, if I'm wrong. Regarding the NDAA language requiring the establishment of an unidentified aerial phenomenon office, and within the correspondence, Go seemed to confirm that the office would sit within its Airborne Object Identification and Management Systems group. So basically, the group that we found out about from the Department of Defense playing, coverage, when they saw the bill saying, "Oh, look, we're doing all these things already." The groups that they claimed they existed, it appears that they're trying to shove this new unit into that group, which is not in the spirit of the legislation by any means. And basically what he does is he does a really good job of doing this point by point by point, showing like all the different things that were either dropped or reinterpreted or changed or in some way. I mean, he lays out a very to be honest with you, it's a little depressing if you read it, because it really it's good, but it really shows that there is a tremendous amount of there's a tremendous amount of effort going on to limit the effectiveness of this legislation.
Right. Okay. Quick question for you. Carbines is asking, has anyone debated Chris Mellon's "Barbarians Inside the Gates" comment that he made on another podcast?
I'm not familiar with that one. What was do you know what the comment was?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I apologize. I wish because actually I'm a little irritated that there's a Christopher Mellon interview that isn't fresh in my memory. So I'll have to dig into that. But no, I mean, if you can give me context, I might be able to comment. But I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know. I did not listen to it. But getting back to this article, I mean, this is a pretty damning article that if the Pentagon spokesperson, who is Susan Go, wants to, she has never been a fan of ufology. She has really tried to put the kibosh over the last couple of years regarding Lou Elizondo, regarding his history. She was one of those up close and personal who were apparently in the group getting rid of his emails and his history within the government. They didn't want anything to do with him. I mean, it really does show an evil side of the government.
Well, all you have to do is go back and read Susan Go's paper to really understand what her value set is for the government, like why she's there and what she does. Because I mean, she's into a level of I don't want to try to imply that she does direct image manipulation, but I mean she definitely does image management, shall we say? But yeah, no, I mean it's unfortunate because it's okay. So in the case of Christopher Mellon, we have someone who's doing things, but he's doing things because he believes. right? He believes that it's important to get this information out, or he believes that something's real that's being hidden or whatever, right? If you have someone like Susan Go who basically is doing the steps to subvert them, but she doesn't have a strong belief behind that, right? She doesn't have like this conviction behind it that's pushing her. There's a good chance that they won't have the energy to stand up to what's coming. But and the thing is that a lot of what's in here, it should have been expected, right? Because that's the whole reason why the Department of Defense put out that memo showing all that stuff, because they were trying to create a chart where you could draw a line to line to line to line to line to line to line, and then they could go, look, we met all your needs by doing what we were already doing, which wasn't very useful to you in the first place, but don't pay attention to the guy behind the closet because we're doing this now. You should be happy, right? So, I mean, that's essentially what we're concerned about. And the thing is that, to be fair, some of what you read about in this article is going to happen. This is just the way it works. This is just the game that gets played. The challenge is that we need to find the ones that are really, really harmful, and do what we can to mitigate those fast. And that's essentially what Christopher Mellon is doing. And Christopher Sharp does cover in this article some of the statements that Christopher Mellon has made specifically about this process and what he's concerned about. And it's what it becomes very clear to me is that Christopher Mellon is very aware of what's going on and was expecting this to happen.
Another great unbiased UFO report from the fedora-wearing Jon Hudson tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Jon, thank you so much for a great report, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep.